Hello and welcome to Castar Reviews, and our Devil May Cry retrospective brings us to Devil May Cry 3, Dante's Awakening. As the subtitle suggests, this game is a prequel. Devil May Cry 3 is the beginning of the Devil May Cry timeline turning a bit screwy. Much like the Street Fighter games, the entire timeline is out of order. While Devil May Cry 2 happens years after Devil May Cry 1, DMC3 is placed right at the beginning of the chronology. It seems that Devil May Cry 3's development team looked at a lot of the complaints fans had about the second game and fixed them to the nth degree. Oh, you think Dante wasn't charismatic or over the top enough? Well, look at this intro.
Sorry, not open for business yet. I haven't even picked a name for this joint, and I'm already getting calls.
You thought that DMC2 was too easy? We're gonna make the hardest, most unforgiving game in the series. You were mad that Dante and Lucia only had one type of weapon? Here's a fuck ton of varied weapons. You get the idea. With all these changes, Devil May Cry 3 is considered the best in the franchise, and the DMC3 versions of Dante and Virgil are the ones that appear in most crossover appearances. Also, DMC3 got a re-release in the form of a special edition, which just so happens to be the definitive version of the game and the one that appears in the HD collection. The special edition adds Virgil as a playable character after beating the campaign, as well as the return of gold orbs and the Bloody Palace. Without further ado, let's see how Devil May Cry 3 ages after 12 years, and if it's still worthy of being considered the best entry in the series. Let's rock, baby. Devil May Cry 3 begins with that incredible intro I showed you before. Just to recap, Virgil sends Arkham to Dante's unnamed shop to invite him to the Temi-Nigru that sprouted in the middle of the city. The Temi-Nigru is a giant tower that separates the human and the demon world. At the entrance of the tower, Dante runs into Cerberus, who looks as you'd expect him to. This starts another thing that differs from the last game. Dante actually interacts with all the bosses, and all of it is gold. This interaction is no exception.
Leave now, mortal! The likes of you are forbidden in this land! You are powerless, are not worthy to set foot here!
Wow, I've never seen a talking mud before. You know, in a dog show, you definitely take first place.
You are a human make a mockery of me?
Easy, Fido. How about I take you out for a walk? Come on, puppy. Let's go.
You will regret this, you lie!
It's showtime. Come on.
After defeating Cerberus, he aids Dante throughout the rest of the game as triple nunchucks. As a matter of fact, all of the main bosses turn into usable weapons after being defeated, from the twin swords Agni and Rudra, the rocking guitar Nevin, and the Ifrit adjacent Beowulf. While in Cerberus' chamber, you're greeted by a lady who tries to shoot Dante with a missile. Dante rides the missile, naturally, and the mysterious woman leaves. We then cut to Arkham and Virgil, who decide to go and deal with the woman, who turns out to be Arkham's daughter, Mary. Arkham is obsessed with gaining demonic power, and killed his wife, Mary's mother, to help him get that, and most likely his weird disfiguration. While going through the tower, Dante runs into the Jester. Dante also runs into Mary, who he nicknames Lady when she finishes off a bunch of demons. Dante makes it to the top where he runs into Virgil and they duel. While the player wins, Dante loses and he's cut down by his brother's katana, the Yamato. Keeping with the running theme from the first game, Dante gets up and he is then stabbed by Virgil with Rebellion. In massive pain, Dante awakens his devil trigger, pun intended. Virgil takes Dante's half of the amulet around his neck, think DMC1 here, and he leaves with Arkham. Dante shows off his new power and is then swallowed by a whale. Wait, did I turn over 2 pages at once? Oh yeah, he does get swallowed by a whale named Leviathan. He escapes the whale by killing the whale, and our villainous duo make their way to the control room of the tower to break the final seal. Virgil tries to awaken the tower with his blood, but Dante interrupts him and challenges him to a rematch. Then Lady interrupts them, and she is in turn interrupted by Jester, who is not as he seemed.
Bravo! Bravo! I never dreamed that things would go so smoothly. Well done, everyone. Well done.
You.
Don't be a bad girl, Mary. Or you can expect a spanking from Daddy later. Jester's gonna spank you, but spank you on the
Insane
butt.
buffoon! I don't know where you came from, but you don't belong here.
Now leave! Zowie, that was close. But you've taken quite a trouncing today, haven't you, Virgil? You could have chopped me into confetti by now if you were in tip-top condition.
Damn you! You have lost.
Because you underestimated humans.
What's going on?
After stabbing his own daughter to gain demonic power, Arkham goes up the elevator to the top. Dante and Lady come to, and her half-demon friend goes to fight Arkham. Lady stops him and says that Arkham should only be killed by her hand. They have a boss fight, she trusts Dante in the end, and gives him her rocket launcher, Kalina Ann. Fun fact, the rocket launcher is named after Lady's mother. Dante makes his way to the top once again, and after fighting his shadow, he confronts Arkham for one last showdown. During the fight, Dante is aided by an unlikely ally.
You cannot defeat a pure demon. The real spirit. What's this? Damn you!
I've come to retrieve my power. You can't handle it.
Look at you, making a big dramatic entrance and stealing my spotlight.
What? You don't possibly believe that he deserves to be our main event now, do you?
Now that you mention it, you're right.
Dante and Virgil finish off Arkham's corrupted form in the most stylish way possible, and they fall through the floor in the waterway along with the Force Edge. Dante and Virgil fight over the Force Edge in the hardest boss fight in the entire game, possibly series, and Dante makes it back to the human world, leaving Virgil to the demon world, where he will be eventually converted into Nello Angelo. Dante and Lady meet back up again, and she comforts Dante over the loss of Virgil, while also giving him an idea for what to name his shop.
We should be fine for now. But I'm sure they'll be back soon. Very soon.
Are you crying?
It's only the rain.
The rain already stopped.
Devils never cry.
I see. Maybe somewhere out there, even a devil may cry when he loses a loved one. Don't you think?
Maybe.
Post-credits, Dante has changed into his DMC1 attire, and his business is booming. The story definitely answered a fair amount of questions about the chronology up to this point, but I feel like it raises a few more. For instance, why wasn't Lady in Devil May Cry 1, when she and Dante would have clearly been friends? The story as a whole isn't winning any awards, but the moments within it make it memorable. All the quotable lines, all of the achievement references in future DMC games that you now get as a result, it's exciting. The characters are also great and fit the narrative. Every single one has a personality, goals, and ambitions. I'd say that the presentation has also been stepped up from the last game. It's hard to believe that Devil May Cry 3 even came out on the same system as the previous two iterations. 4 years is a lot of time in technology years. Much like the first game, the environments are varied and memorable, and they offer a lot of opportunities for exploration. My one complaint about the overall presentation is the camera, yet again. There are some parts where you can control the camera manually, but when you're relegated to fixed camera angles, you're going to be in for a lot of unneeded twisting and turning. It affects more than just movement, since a fair number of attacks require moving the stick in a direction with a button to perform. You have to keep guessing which way the game will consider back or forward this time. The character and enemy designs are great. I'm a big fan of how all of them look, although some definitely look better than others. Also, the Hell Pride enemies have actual facial expressions that are used for comedic effect. Speaking of comedic effect, the voice acting is spot on. The voice cast here has been the main one all the way through to Devil May Cry 5, and they play their parts very well in this game. Ruben Langdon, the voice of Dante, has incredible delivery and comedic timing, and Daniel Southworth, Virgil's voice, does a great job of portraying the character's personality. The funny thing is, Langdon hadn't really done anything huge up to DMC3, and he was given this huge job of voicing a soon-to-be iconic character. Now he's gone on to voice Dante in literally everything he's in, and also taken up voicing another iconic Capcom character in Ken Masters. I don't think the story works the way it does without the superb voice acting, so kudos to the entire cast. The music is also fantastic. The theme Devils Never Cry has been used as Dante's theme in Marvel vs. Capcom, and the final Virgil fight theme was used for Virgil in Ultimate Marvel 3. The sound design is also great. The sound effects have the right amount of punch to them, and they make landing a triple S combo so fucking satisfying. Speaking of, As with the last two games, Devil May Cry 3 generally brings the same hack and slash action, but with some new wrinkles. First off, the style meter goes all the way up to triple S now, which is sensational. As with every game, the rankings were renamed, going from dope to crazy, blast, alright, sweet, showtime, and stylish. Also, the weapon variety has been turned up to 11. I touched on the boss weapons previously, but I want to say that my two favorite weapons ended up being Rebellion and Agni and Rudra. But this brings up my biggest complaint with the gameplay. Like in Devil May Cry 2, there's a quick select for your handheld weapons and guns, but you can only carry 2 of each weapon at a time. That's fine on its own, but putting new weapons in your loadout is an agonizing process. You have to either A, switch weapons at the start screen of the mission, or B, switch to the skill statue. Why is this like this at all? In Devil May Cry 1, weapons are easily switched in the menu, no big deal. But if you're going through the game and would rather be using Cerberus instead of Agni and Rudra, then you have to hope that a skill statue is in the near vicinity or you're stuck. It boggles the mind why this game was designed this way. It's a big flaw in an otherwise perfect game. Not to mention it's also backwards. Here, let's give you a wide variety of weapons and guns, but you can only carry 2 of them in each time. The other new feature in the game is styles. So the way this works is that you start out with 4 different styles: Trickster, Gunslinger, Swordmaster, and Royal Guard. You can only use one style at a time, and each one gives you exclusive abilities with your weapons. By killing demons, you can level up your current style, adding new and more powerful moves. The XP requirements are a little out there, so throughout one playthrough, you'll most likely end up maxing out one style. The style system is awesome, but it has the same issues as the weapon system. The only way to switch styles is to go to a skill statue or wait until the beginning of the next mission. With styles, it makes a bit more sense since you'll most likely be focusing on one throughout the entire playthrough anyway, but it still would have been nice to switch on the fly depending on the situation. After beating the game once, you unlock Virgil as a playable character. Virgil comes with Devil Trigger from the start along with Yamato, Force Edge, and Beowulf. Virgil doesn't believe in firearms, so he uses summon swords as projectiles. Virgil goes through the same missions as Dante but with no cutscenes, so it's a nice addition if you want a bit more replay value. Speaking of, mission select mode is available from the start, so if you're having trouble with Cerberus like I was starting out, you can play the first mission on easy mode and grind orbs until you have enough for healing items. On the subject of difficulty, this game takes no prisoners. This is not for the DMC noob. If you're not in it for the story, I'd recommend playing Devil May Cry 5 or even Bayonetta first to get your feet wet in the genre. As far as the collection as a whole, it's structurally sound, very similar to the HD collection that came out a few years ago on the Xbox 360 and PS3. You have a sound test, a concept art gallery, the basics as far as I'm concerned. Devil May Cry 3 is still a great game, I'd say one of the best in its genre, but is it still worthy of being considered the best in its series? I would say no, but it's a slight no. I think there are games that refined the foundation that DMC3 set, but I still can't dismiss the fact that DMC3 was a foundational piece in the character action genre. Next up is Devil May Cry 4, which is more or less an in-between game chronology-wise. That review will be released in 2 weeks as opposed to the usual 1 because next week is my birthday, and I'm going to be going through 3 campaigns to fully beat Devil May Cry 4. Please subscribe for more content from me, and I will see you in 2 weeks for Devil May Cry 4.